Welcome back to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for another installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series. If this is your first time tuning in, first off, welcome. We're super excited you took time out of your busy schedules to give this program a viewing. What are you going to learn? Well, you're going to learn what it takes to have a career in and around the NFL. And today, we're focusing on the world of communications. And you say that and you think, well, you're going to be writing stories and all that. We're going to learn all about that today. So you're in tune for a great program. If you have tuned in with this program before, as always, thank you so much. My name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth Education and Leadership Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, where it's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty, all of which made our 371 Hall of Famers the best football players, minds, and coaches there are. But it can make you a great student, it can make me a great employee of my organization, and it's going to definitely make our special guest a great employee of theirs. So take these values to heart. They are very, very important and can help you become the best you that you want to be. Before we get started, some thank yous I'd like to pass out. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the teachers, professors, educators, anybody that shared this program with their students. And if you're watching us live in your class right now, thank you so much. If you're watching us 6 months down the road, we thank you for tuning in as well. Thank you for allowing us to be a small part of your students' learning experience. And then secondly, I'd like to thank the students. Without you guys here, this program doesn't take place. As always, we have a lot of questions prepared, but we want to hear from you. This program is an opportunity for you to start your network in a field or in a profession or with a team that you want to start. And so take advantage of it. We're going to have the LinkedIn information, as always, here in the chat, available here in a few minutes. So make sure you click in and connect with our special guest today. But we want to hear from you. So first off, let us know what school you go to. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have a question, go ahead and put it there in the chat. Let us know your name, your school, and then go ahead with your question. Nathan's watching those questions like he is every week. And we're ready to see the great questions we get from our students today. So with all that being said, I like to say that we are lucky and grateful to be joined by our special guest today, Mr. Michael Bertsch. He's in his 5th season as the communications manager for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Has previously worked in media relations with the University of Notre Dame, Wake Forest University, University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and Marshall University. So maybe we have some representatives, some students from those schools tune in today. Bertsch and the Steelers Communications Department has been named a finalist for the Pro Football Writers of America's Pete Rozelle Award 3 of the last 4 years. The Akron, Ohio native, so he's from right here in the 330. Graduated from Walsh University here right down the road in 1998 with a bachelor's degree in communications. And he was a 4-year member of the Cavs men's soccer team. He also received his master's degree in health and physical education with an emphasis in sports administration from Marshall University in May of 2001. So with that, we'd like to welcome Michael to Before the Snap. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, Jake. Thanks for having me, everybody. This is pretty neat for me. As Jake mentioned, I'm a local kid. Went to school down the road, grew up in Akron, went to St. Vincent St. Mary High School. So real familiar with the area and look forward to spending some time with you today. And hopefully you guys get something out of this. I know that I will.
I gotta say, it's gotta be like St. Vincent St. Mary's gotta be like LeBron James, and then you have got to meet just right underneath there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was there first, so he did go to my high school as
That's
opposed
true.
to I went to his. But yeah, real close, right around the same level of significance.
Awesome. Well, Michael, we again thank you for being a part of the program today. I can't wait to hear what you have to share with the students today. But first and foremost, as always, we just like to kind of give a 10,000-foot view on what the day-to-day life looks like with your job. So can you kind of let us know and the students know, what do you do on a day-to-day basis and some of the things you oversee and are in charge of?
Yeah. So, day to day, once you get into the season, it's very much routine. There's a bit of a regiment to each day. Early in the week on Monday and Tuesday, our group, we have an office of 5 in our communications office. On Monday and Tuesday, it's a lot of prep work for the week as it comes, from setting up interviews with players, in different media outlets. We're putting together our what we call our game notes, our weekly release, which is distributed to the media that cover us. It's just a informational packet, sort of the nuts and bolts, stats, notes, that kind of thing that helps the media that covers us. Setting up credentials and all that kind of thing in terms of if we have a home game. And then that is predominantly Monday and Tuesday. The players are not in the building on Tuesdays. That's their day off. Coach Tomlin meets with the media on Tuesdays. And then once they return to the facility on Wednesday if it's a normal Sunday game, we have multiple, what we call open locker rooms. We have a morning and an after practice session where, all the players on the roster are available to the media, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The league mandates 45 minutes of open locker room, Wednesday through Friday. So, once we get into that part of our day, it's a lot of interacting with the players at times, prepping them on, topics that the media want to talk about. Just make sure they're comfortable with whatever it is they want to discuss. And that kind of takes us through to the end of the week. Today being a Friday, the CBS crew that's calling the game is here today. They'll watch practice and then they'll meet with Coach Tomlin and some of our players in what we call production meeting, where they are kind of informed on, things that may or may not go on in the game, kind of help them prepare for their broadcast. So once we get done through today, kind of have a normal Saturday, if you will. Actually, I joke it's the day I get to see my family. And then obviously game day is kind of just a whirlwind. So that's sort of as quickly as I can get through it. I know that wasn't sort of like a game week.
Awesome. And, you joke there, the day you get to see your family, but I think that really goes to show that, while it is a 9-to-5 job, it's a job you can go to college to get and, a degree you can get. But, working in sports does, require that huge amount of work. And, the reward is Sunday to see it all kind of come to fruition. And, you yourself, you're seeing those little rewards throughout the week. How important is it for you to be able to balance that? We always talk about a work-life balance, and in sports, especially at that beginning level, that kind of stereotypical path to get into sports is you have to start in ticketing, which is a lot of hours, and you work in game days and all these other jobs. How important is it to create that work-life balance as soon as you get into the field? Because it's going to be really easy to kind of get away from that and be at work so much.
It is, it takes some time, in the profession to sort of find that appropriate balance. And what you realize is if you don't have it, you're negatively affected at work. You have to find the time, make the time to pull yourself away from work. You will find yourself to be more efficient, more productive, more helpful in your role, whatever it is. If you're not constantly grinding, you need to find that balance. It certainly is something you probably never master. In my case, it's taken time, what has helped me, was, when I married my wife and we had our son, there are now things that are kind of all around our son's life, soccer and baseball and all those kind of things. So I get a good opportunity to coach him in some of that stuff, which is a really good sort of pull me away from the grind of work and sort of resets my batteries when, I do have to get, back to the office and back to the grind, the following day. So that's a really important part of the process, whatever that is for you. If it's simply reading or whatever it is for you that gets you away from work, albeit even if it's small moments, those are really important and really need to be valued.
So we learned a little bit about what the day-to-day life looks throughout the week, and then Sunday you said it's a whirlwind. So what does Sunday look like for, all right, we'll say typical game day because
Yeah.
different days during the week. But what does a typical game day look like for you? What time you showing up? What things are you
Yep.
doing leading up to the game? Once kickoff happens, and then at the end of the game, there's a lot of responsibility for someone in your role as well. So as because we could probably spend all day talking about this, but
Yeah.
what does that game day look like for you?
We'll just use Sunday as an example. It's a 1 o'clock game. Um, we open the press box for the media covering the game at 9 a.m. We'll get to the stadium around 8 a.m. And our team obviously makes sure that the press box is set up. Game programs, flip cards, which is, for those that may not know what a flip card is, it has both rosters of the teams. It has what's called a depth chart, who's starting a line, backup alignment, etc. And then other materials that the media uses to help cover the game. We make sure that that's all set up. And then pregame, it's a number of different things. I'll check in with all the radio broadcast teams, both the Steelers, on Sunday, the Packers, and a national radio broadcast. I'll check in with them before the game, let them know of any, last minute changes we might have in terms of what we call our active roster. There is a 90-minute meeting before the game, and you submit what is called your inactive players for that day. So there's 53 players that are eligible to play on a Sunday. 48 of them can actually only play. So you have generally, depending on if you call up a practice squad player, 4 to 6 inactive players that are not able to play. So that's a meeting that we have with the officials, with the teams, and you're just working with the broadcast teams to let them know of that. And then minutia type stuff, pronunciations, like, going over any of that stuff, any questions they might have in terms of pregame. Once the game gets going, it's in my role, it's predominantly following the game for notes or trends that we'll tweet out through either our PR account or my account. It's sharing that with the media in the press box. It's sharing that with the broadcast teams. You'll watch a game and you'll hear somebody say, that's the 7th time Kenny Pickett's led a fourth quarter drive or whatnot. Like that information generally comes from us, that they either had in prep work or we share on game day. So that's pretty much what my role is during the game. We also, a role that's massively important that our office handles is we have a field, someone of our group is down on the field, and that's communicating the injuries up from the field to the press box. Obviously the league takes that very serious in terms of the open communication of injuries to the media. So we have someone down on the field that communicates to us up in the press box, and then we share that information in the press box and obviously via our social channels now, to notify, Kenny Pickett hand, probable to return, or, unfortunately last Thursday night, Cole Holcomb went down with the knee injury and he was ruled out pretty quickly. So that's another part of the process we do in game. And then post game, obviously we head down to the field maybe mid to late fourth quarter. If the Steelers win, there's a number of on-field interviews that we take care of, getting players to the television broadcast. So in this week's CBS, the national radio broadcast, we get a player to our own radio broadcast. That all happens on the field. And then we open the locker room after what's about a 10. Once all the players and coaches are back in the locker room, Coach T talks to the guys normally pretty briefly. And then we'll open the locker room to the media about 10 minutes after everybody's in there. And that's where the majority of the media get their work in terms of post-game interviews, going up to guys in their locker room or at their locker. And we take coach and our three highest profile guys to the media room, and they do a sit alone press conference, just because it to have them get kind of swallowed up by all the cameras at their lockers a bit much. So we try to make it easy on them, and we just take them over into a media room where they just have a presser individually, and that gets us through game day. And then all the stuff after that is all, getting up. We put up quotes, we put up transcripts, we put out the stats, like sort of, basic stuff that, again, is materials that the media use to write about the game.
That sounds like a busy day for sure. And handling so many different things, different things.
Yeah. The one cool thing about it too, is like, I sit here and say we do A, B, C, and D. Like, there is a sort of checklist, for lack of a better word, of things you do, but like, you never know what's going to happen, right? That's kind of the coolest part of this job is you don't know what's going to happen on Sunday, good, bad, or indifferent. So this profession constantly asks you to stay on your toes.
I think that sort of job is made for somebody. There are people out there who need that and want that niche. So I'm glad you shared that. I got the chat pulled up here, and there's been nothing but questions popping up. So I'm gonna send it over to Nathan. He was gonna go through. I don't think we're gonna get through all of them right away here off the bat, but I'm sure we're gonna do our best to get through all throughout the program. So I'm gonna send it over to Nathan here for a few of our student questions.
Yeah, Jake, thank you. And Michael, thanks for being a part of the program. And Jake wasn't kidding. The students, they figured it out. They learn. They put the questions in soon. They get to be a part of the program a lot earlier. So, Michael, we'll dive straight into those. First one is a student named Leah from UNC Pembroke. Curious, as a communication professional, what would you say is your greatest achievement in your professional career?
Greatest achievement. I would say, I guess it's if I had to, and this achievement might be kind of specific and personal to me. I grew up, just full candor, grew up a huge Notre Dame fan, and my family all went there. So to have an opportunity to work there for 13 years and be the primary football PR person there, was a pretty significant moment for a kid that grew up as just a fan. I used to always joke that the university was smart to never admit me as a student, but dumb enough to hire me as an employee for 13 years. But that was a pretty cool experience, and something that I learned so much from. That's a very unique place, very special place to me and my family. Not only my grandparents got married there, I got married there, our son got baptized there. So that'll for always be a special place to our family. So that was pretty unique opportunity to sort of work my way up to. So, I would certainly acknowledge that, as I guess, as I sit here, probably my most significant, if you will. And some of that, again, is the emotional tie that I have to that place, but significant accomplishment.
No doubt. I mean, I think so many of the students probably watching, I can think about when I was a student, like, you almost have like that dream job, and a lot of it probably felt like the dream job. And I kind of just got to ask, like, obviously you work for the Steelers now, like,
right.
What kind of, and this kind of goes to one of our student questions, kind of talk about that journey, like what's led you to the Steelers? Because a lot of people will be like, oh, this dude's going to be a Notre Dame lifer, now that you're there at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
What drew you to the NFL? What drew you to the Pittsburgh Steelers and this opportunity you have now?
It was, it's funny. So a gentleman that works here by the name of Bert Loughton, he and I kind of grew up, if you want to say, together in this profession. We both graduated college the same year. and we found ourselves like finalists for all the same jobs. So we didn't really get to know each other all that well. But we always made the joke, like my first job was as a graduate assistant at Marshall University, which he was the finalist for with me. And his first job was an intern at Miami, Ohio, which I was a finalist versus him. And we always joke that like the reason he got the Miami job was because I said no. And the reason I got the Miami Marshall job was because he said no. So like we stayed in contact all throughout the years. You know, he transitioned out of college, you know, about 15 years ago, but we stayed in touch. He would always reach out when they had openings here to sort of get my opinion on some people, or if I had some suggestions of people to hire, you know. So we sort of developed that relationship a long time ago, that we would, you know, touch base with each other every 6 months or whatever. And an opportunity just arose. Ironically enough, he called asking for some candidates for a job, and we talked 2 or 3 times about people. And I don't know, it was a few weeks after that we were talking again, and it just seemed like maybe he wasn't sure the direction that it was going to go. And it was sort of like we just were like, well, I might be, you know, it's like I might be interested, you know what I mean? It just
hire me.
like that. Like we hadn't really talked about it or thought about it, and that kind of started it. And we talked a few more times and came and interviewed, and I guess sort of the rest is history.
That's awesome. That's a great journey. No doubt. And hopefully the students can kind of see too, you know, working in sports business, you might have to jump around a little bit. You know, you've got the Marshall, you know, you've got the Notre Dames that work, you know, Pittsburgh. It's not like you just graduated from Walsh and you've been a Pittsburgh Steeler ever since.
Right.
You know, that can happen, but it seems like more often than not, there's some jumping around in the sports business world. This next question is a student from Duke University, curious, just I guess briefly, most exciting part of your job, and then maybe the most challenging or the biggest challenge that you have within your position.
You know, maybe speak to the challenge first. I think it is challenging in the sense of, yes, it's exciting to work in sports, and I would use the word fun. But in reality, like we work in PR that just happens to be in sports. And there's a lot of real life challenge. I mean, these guys, this is their profession, right? This is their job. And there's hiring and firing based on success. And so it's difficult at times working with guys there's that real pressure that they undergo. Because obviously the NFL and the success is under such light. So that's a challenge. Is just you at times it's not always easy. But you know, I think one thing that's always important, in particular with any of these type roles, is it's easier if you work on the relationship part of it. You know, if you spend time to get to know the players and the coaches, not just, hey, I need you for this, or you have to do this, or whatever. If you invest time into them personally, those difficult moments are lessened and are much easier. So, you know, that part of it is can be challenging at times. But as I was saying earlier, the most enjoyable part, even though it sometimes results in stressful situations, is just sort of not knowing what's about to happen. Like when all of a sudden, you know, that, for lack of a better phrase, that live camera goes on, like, you know, those are the moments that at times can be stressful, but when you look back on it, it's, you know, that's kind of why you choose this route.
Yeah, I think both those are awesome examples, you know, as far as a challenge, but also the excitement, you know, like you said, like you're waiting for that camera to go on live, and like you have in your mind, like, I know how this is going to go, but
Right.
also it might go completely sideways and it might go a different direction. And then you got to just react and respond.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you go into something thinking, you know, everything's going to go smooth. It doesn't. And then there's a lot of work on the back end, right? Sort of managing what was said or whatnot. So, that's the fun part of the job, albeit difficult. And again, it's just driven by the relationship aspect of it. It's really important.
Yeah, I think relationships in any profession, whether students, are blessed and able to get into the sport industry or not, which I think a lot of our students watching want to. Relationships are going to be important in whatever field you work in. Just really important life skill to develop and to have meaningful relationships with people where it's not transactional, where you're just always looking to get something.
Right.
So I think that's a great piece of advice you're giving the students there. I'm going to throw it back to Jake for some other stuff we got planned, but lots of student questions. Keep sending them in. We're going to do our best to get to as many as possible. But I think this is a great time to remind the students that connect with Michael on LinkedIn. If we don't get to your question today, I'm sure when he gets a spare moment or two in the busyness of the NFL season, he'll respond to that and love to, interact and connect with the students that way. So, but for now, we'll send it back to Jake.
Yes, thanks, Nathan. And Michael, we talk about all the work that goes into sport and working for an NFL team and how busy you are that, it is take a lot of work. But on the flip side of it, there are some pretty cool rewards about working in sports.
Yeah.
And, we look at getting to be a part of these moments that people would pay millions and millions of dollars to get to be a part of. And, working in sports, you get paid to do that. So looking back on your career, college time in the NFL, there are moments stick out to you that when you're retired at the end of the day, kick back in the lazy boy, reflecting on your career, that's going to make you go, wow, I can't believe I was a part of this. What would that moment be for you so far?
Yeah. Couple come to mind. One early in my career, when I worked at Marshall University. There for those that don't know, I mean, people probably know it from the movie. But there was a plane crash there that wiped out the entire football program for the most part. And I was there in what was the 30-year anniversary of the plane crash, and helped with the documentary that was made. And the celebration of the 30-year, where a number of the players who were either hurt or like freshmen and didn't play that came back. And to be a part of that sort of moment, because that touched that town in a way that's really hard to describe, but to just be there and be a part of that and see those people come together again 30 years after that tragedy was really special. Here in Pittsburgh, the playoff game at Kansas City, which ultimately ended up being Ben's last game, to sort of be there and walk off the field, 5 feet from him, the last time he ever walked off a football field, sort of to see that scene, was kind of hard to process. And probably at Notre Dame, kind of a behind the scenes one that was really cool was it's my first or second year there, and we did a round table with Coach Holtz, Coach Parsegian, and at the time Coach Weiss, and it was just really cool to watch those, in particular Coach Holtz and Coach Parsegian, who won multiple national championships, like as a kid growing up, like they were legendary coaches, and to sort of be in the same room with those three, just sort of talking football. That was a really pretty cool moment. Those are little things that you'll remember forever. Just sort of, like a fly in the wall kind of thing,
Yeah, I think those are the moments too that do stick with you. Obviously, getting to interact. Obviously, hundreds and maybe thousands of athletes at this point throughout your career you've interacted with, it from college to kids to players in the NFL, guys like Ben Roethlisberger. So you've seen them come and go, and sometimes it is those little moments that mean a lot. I know we can speak on that a lot here at the Hall of Fame, getting to see a lot of those behind the scenes moments of guys celebrating their careers. So, a lot of things that we do, we celebrate those careers of those players, both current and past, as well as all those players who are going to come down the road. And the way we do that is, we are a museum. We're preserving the history of all those great athletes. And so we thought, what better way to showcase what we do here at the Hall of Fame to go live out to our museum. So we got the Director of Youth and Education and Leadership, Jerry Shockey, out in our museum. He's going to talk to you guys a little bit about where he is and some of the things. And Michael, I believe he's got a question for you as well. So Jerry, whenever you're ready, take it away.
All right, I apologize for the background noise. It is loud. It's noisy in here. We are packed right now, which is absolutely awesome. We love it. Again, my name is Jerry Shockey, Director of Youth and Education. And so let me just say this further proof here that the Steelers, I believe, are the #1 team in the country. The fact that the viewers that we have here today, the number of questions, as I was looking earlier in the YouTube feed, before I came out here to the museum, I was at my desk watching the YouTube audience interact and the excitement that's there. So can't tell, I'm a Steeler fan as well, so I'm excited for this here today. Been here at the Hall of Fame now for 24 years, and maybe been to a Super Bowl, maybe been to an AFC championship or two when they beat the Ravens, when they beat the Jets in Pittsburgh. Those are some exciting moments for me. So, Michael, great to have you here. Where we are at, though, is where we celebrate maybe not those 2000 Steelers teams, but the 70 Steelers. We're in our rotunda, the Pro Football Fame, where we tell the story of the first century. And Mike, since you're from the area, when you drive by the building that looks like a juicer, as we like to say. So that gallery here, we're here on the second floor where it's broken up in different categories here, like pioneers, record breakers, road to equality, and of course, dynasties. And this display behind me is dedicated to the dynasties of the NFL, going back from the 1920s, all the way up until the 2000s, obviously, with the Patriots. And we can see the 70s, obviously, are highlighted by the great Steelers team. This decade included with the Steelers 6 consecutive AFC crowns, 8 straight playoff appearances, and 4 Super Bowl championships. Those Steeler teams in the 70s were filled with Hall of Famers across the roster like Lambert, Bradshaw, and so many others. And so, Marco, arguably the Steelers, more than any other franchise in the NFL, buy into the mindset of the city they call home. Blue collar, hardworking, bring your hard hat to work, bring your lunch pail, that kind of mentality, which was embraced by the owners for years. I've been, like I said, 24 years here, the Rooney family and worked with them in the past. And so just know that mindset that they bring, that servant-minded, even if you will, mentality that Rooney brought. And so the 70s team, known as the Steel Curtain, is a team who is still embraced today as that as well. The question I have, because they still, in many ways, the city still, as the city transforms and has transformed over the past 20 or 30 years, it still has continued kind of that same mindset. So can you talk about when you are doing stuff in the way of media relations, communications, does that play into it? Maybe the way you might slant things or anything like that, knowing that many of your audience, especially in the area, have that blue collar mentality. How's that shape what you do in your area?
For sure. And can kind of answer that in a couple different ways. Going to your point about how the Steelers are Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh is the Steelers. There's a pretty, I think it's a pretty well told story now. Maybe some of the viewers might be a little too young but when the success of the 70s was happening, NFL Films wanted to sort of document the Steelers as America's team, which obviously everyone now knows they refer to that as the Cowboys. And the chief, Mr. Rooney, the original owner, said, no, we're not America's team. We're Pittsburgh's team. And that sort of always has stayed with us. And it has kind of morphed into, I know this, everybody that's familiar with the Steelers has heard the standard is the standard. And that's how we operate, right? There is there's just a standard in hopefully how our team performs on the field. There's a standard in how we carry ourselves off the field, a standard in terms of how we handle ourselves in front of the media. We don't always hit the mark where everybody is human, but there is an expectation of how to operate. And the original, again, the chief, Mr. Rooney, was always very media friendly. It was very important to him. So we are, I think, the last NFL team that allows media to attend practice every day. We were the last team that would literally bring media with us on our team plane because it was important to the Rooneys that the Pittsburgh and the area got as fair and accurate coverage of the team and try to connect the city to the team as best they could. And so we are by far probably one of the more open and available franchises to the media because of that. And that all comes back to the city. It 100% comes back to that and the relationship that we have with the city. And if you guys ever, and it's crazy, again, I'm a Northeast Ohio guy, so obviously I was very familiar with the Steelers fan base. They are also everywhere. And it's amazing how that sort of commitment to being Pittsburgh's team has obviously created an interest with the Steelers globally. And we can't go to a game without almost feeling like it's a home game. So, but yeah, it's a part of who we are every day and all the different support groups that help the team. There's that belief and that standard.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. And students, make sure you submit those questions. Get them in. I know we got a bunch of them. Keep them coming. What an exciting opportunity you guys have to network, to get to learn a little bit more insight in the industry. And so thank you, Michael, for taking time here today. And Jake, I will send it back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for the look inside the museum there. Hopefully everybody learned a little bit about the Steelers, and I knew the standard was going to come up at some point today. So I'm glad we got that in there. I normally take some time to ask some questions here, but we have so many questions from students. We want the opportunity to get as many of those answered as possible. So I'm going to throw it to Nathan. You'll probably hear from me one more time before we wrap up because we've got so many questions from students. So Michael, I'm going to throw it to Nathan, and Nathan, you can take it from here.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. First question from our student. This is a student from Seattle University. You talked a lot about, I probably was thinking towards this Sunday, your role with the home games. Mm-hmm. What's your role look like when the team's on the road, as far as, I guess, game day responsibilities?
Yeah. Try to do this best I can quickly. When we travel, we'll have production meetings when we arrive to the hotel the night before, similar to what I discussed, what we have going on today here. On the road, we do it the night before at the hotel. And then on game day, get to the stadium. We have 3 waves of buses that go over 4 hours. They get there 4 hours before, 3 hours before, 2 hours before. I always go on the 3 hours before bus. Get our post-game media room set up. Again, meet all pregame with all this, do the same kind of game day routine that I do home, on the road. That part of it, once at the stadium, is whether it's in Cleveland or Pittsburgh, it is the same. The only parts that are different when on the road are, a little bit of the before and the after, if you will. The after's absolute chaos because you're trying to get out of there and get to a plane and everything's happening 1,000 miles an hour to get everything done, and then get on the bus and get to the plane. So, but the work's the same. It's just probably condensed in terms of time, just because it's when you're trying to fly out and get out of a city, it's a little more strenuous in that regard.
So real quick, because you are traveling with the team, do you have a favorite stadium on the road?
It's funny. We a group of us were talking about this when we went out to Vegas, because that was the first time we had been to that stadium, and we were chit-chatting about stadiums. I will say my personal favorite of the ones that I've been to in terms of in the NFL, like the new ones. The one in Minnesota is really cool. You know, all the new stadiums are nice and massive. The Minnesota one, you know, the press box is open air. It's not way at the top, so you sort of feel like you're in the crowd, which is, you know, has its coolness and some challenges because of the noise and talking to the people next to you. But it's different, and so that makes it pretty cool. But man, like that still like the first time I got to go to Green Bay, that was pretty special. You know, there's certain places, whether it's college or the NFL stadiums, that like when you walk into the stadium, like you feel it, the history of the place. Lambeau is obviously one of those places. You know, Notre Dame Stadium is obviously one of those places. So, those are just a couple that are pretty unique and special.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine. I mean, it's got to be cool for you, you know, to experience all that. And, you know,
Yep.
Us as fans, we're like, man, I'd love to go to all 32 stadiums, but that's
Right.
part of your job. You know,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. You know, eventually, if you're with the Steelers long enough, you'll hit all 32.
Hopefully.
So,
Yep.
This is a question related to your work a little bit, and kind of, I think, just continue to give the students a good idea of what it's like to have a career working in communications. Like what you hear that major when you're thinking about majors in college, and there's lots of different ways you can go with that. But what's it look like, the 9 to 5 or the, you know, 6 or 7 day work week? During the off season, this is a student from the University of Tampa. What's that like for you? We've kind of got the work week kind of figured out for the 20 or so weeks, you know, hopefully a couple more weeks than that, you know, during the regular season. But during the off season, when games aren't being played, it might be OTAs, it might be the draft. But what does your role kind of look like throughout those off season months?
Yeah. You know, the off season, I will say this, and full disclosure, the off season, you know, we talked about work-life balance earlier. The off season in the NFL is actually much easier to manage than off season when working in college athletics. You know, even in my last job where I just worked football, I didn't work with other sports as I did in the earlier parts of my career. You know, off season there isn't, right? You have spring football and recruiting and all this stuff. And so it never really feels like there's an off season. In the NFL, it is there. It allows for it. You know, OTAs and the mandatory mini camps and rookie mini camp and the draft. Obviously, those are your combine. Those are your sort of massive off season events. And ours it's pretty similar to how it is during the season. You know, players are available to the media, coaches are available to the media. We obviously set that up, have open locker rooms, you know, on a, you know, basically 3 days a week for about however many weeks that is, 5 weeks. So, you know, but you're not doing the publication work, if you will, of game programs and notes and all that work. Obviously that's not part of it. The draft is unique in the sense of, you know, that's just a massive lift for everybody. You know, from collecting bios, participating, you know, our group participates in interviews with, you know, you're permitted 30 visits from players leading up to the draft. We always have somebody in PR meet with that person. So you play a role in sort of getting to know the guy if we were to draft the player. And then on draft night, it's just crazy, right? You draft the guy, you get him on the phone, he talks to everybody in the building, you put him into a conference call with the media, then you get him back on the phone and you arrange his travel and get him in for the next day. And right, somebody's writing a bio up on the kid. You know, you're evaluating him. I mean, in today's world, you evaluate like his social media channels, like anything we need to know that we didn't know before, you know, that kind of thing. Like all that stuff happens in like a heartbeat. And you sit there lean into the draft and you're like, oh, okay, maybe this guy, maybe that guy, but you have no idea really at all. And then all of a sudden you have this guy and like everything needs to get done in like 2.5 minutes. So that again, that's exciting. That's fun. Everybody's going through that craziness. So it's kind of a team bonding thing, if you will, like all the support staffs, it's crazy for everybody. So kind of brings everybody together. But off season is much more, break it down. Off season is much more true, like 9 to 5, you know? So
I love that insight with the draft. That's something that I never really, I guess, thought of that. I mean, I know they fly the guys in the next day and they're available to the media, but just like the craziness and like needing to try to get that information up on the website, and obviously it's got to be accurate. You don't want to put wrong information up, like
right. Yep.
And you guys don't get the draft information really any sooner than us watching it, you know.
Right.
So
right.
it's reading,
it's not like
reaction.
Not like we're in the war room, right? We're not all down there listening to the conversations of, okay, which one of these 3 guys, if they're there, are we taking? We get the final word. It's Kenny. Okay. And it's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
And then the world finds out it's Kenny about a minute later.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of, like I said, it's fun. It's fun to be in that building. It's exciting. People are bouncing around. So it's cool to be in the building on those couple of days. But it is hectic. It's a lot.
So these last couple of questions, and maybe we'll merge it into one. We'll see how it goes. But I think this is kind of a good way to wrap up the program, because it'll be great advice for the students. And maybe it's been a while since you've kind of had to brush up your personal resume. You know, you've been with the Steelers for several years, and it sounds like your network has helped you, you know, land jobs throughout your career. But what would you tell a student? You know, a lot of these are college students. What's something they can do with their resume, with their interview habits, like to really stand out? You know, it's competitive. If you want to get an internship in the NFL or, you know, that seasonal job, it's competitive. So how can they prepare themselves to stand out from the resume standpoint? Maybe an interview tip that you've used or heard throughout your career.
Yeah. One thing, and again, depending what school you go to, you know, maybe you have more opportunities to get work-like experience, but obviously I went to a small school and I worked at the school paper. I worked at the school radio station. Like I didn't know, I laugh about it now. I started as an accounting major. And that lasted about 2.5 weeks. And then I'm like, yeah, this is not what I want to do. But like, I ran in the guy that did our broadcasted our games was what was called an SID, sports information director. And I'm like, what's that? I'm like, you stats and stuff. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. So like go find, I worked at 4 different colleges, go find their media relations office, the athletic communications office, and like offer to do whatever. The reality is they may not be paying opportunities right at this stage when you're working in college, but man, like they need help. And they'll give you every opportunity that you kind of earn. So don't be bashful trying to find those opportunities, because you don't know what they'll lead to. I think about in my time especially my time at Notre Dame, like we have student workers, right? Student assistants that just like would work a game day or would come in on Wednesday nights and help with something. One works in the PR for the Yankees. Another one works in PR for the Chiefs. Another one works in PR for the Giants. Like they just like, and they were just like, they didn't really know what they wanted to do. They're just like, this seems kind of fun. And next thing they know, they found out, hey, I can make a career of this. So go find that campus SID and can I do stats at games? Can I help you with notes? Can I can I help you with interviews? Whatever it is, I think that's the main thing that like when we're looking at a resume, like don't get me wrong, like the educational component of college is important, but like the networking, the relationships, the real work experience is what we really hope to see. And when we see a candidate that's like, we look at him on his resume and he worked in the SID office with the lacrosse team and he helped on football Saturdays and like he even broadcast games or whatever, worked with the local minor league baseball team as an intern. Like, those are experiences that I don't want to say, those are the things that we really look for, like, who you've worked with, the impression you left with those people, and your willingness to try and find opportunities. Those are the key things to try to accomplish, while you're there. But you have to understand you might have to do it for free. That's just a reality of the world we live in now. But it benefits you massively on the back end.
I think that's great advice. I think you kind of outlined it pretty well, the experience they can maybe anticipate getting, but also why it's so important for students to be willing to go talk to these people that are at their college or their university and find
Right.
it, so that we talk about resume advice. Go get the experience so then you can put it on the resume,
Right.
and that'll help you stand out, when it comes time to get into that interview room. And then you just talk about the experience that you've had and how it relates to the position that you're hoping to get.
Yep.
So I really appreciate that advice. Michael, I thank you for being a part of the program. Students, I know we didn't get to all the questions, but again, encouragement to you. Please go connect with Michael on LinkedIn, myself, Jake, whoever. Start building that network so that you can know people that are in the industry. Just ask for advice and learn more about the jobs that you're hoping to get someday. But so again, Michael, on behalf of myself and the students, thanks for being on before the snap, but we're going to send it to Jake to kind of wrap things up here.
Thanks a lot, bud. Good to talk to you.
Yes, thanks, Nathan. To all of our students, thank you so much. As he said, there were so many questions we could not get to everybody, so the door is open. If you had a question you wanted to ask, now's the time to get to ask. Michael, got two things we want to finish up, kind of two fun questions. First one we're going to do, we do a rapid fire segment. Got 6 questions here for you.
All right.
Are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Number 1, LinkedIn. Great way to network. Just another social media app.
Great way to network. I am late to the party with it. Person of my age is a little late to the party with it, but super, super helpful, super resourceful.
Number 2, GPA on a resume. Leave it on, keep it off.
I can't tell you the last time I ever looked at someone's GPA, honestly.
All right. Number 3, social media accounts, public or private?
I would lean to private. Obviously I have a public account for a while. I've learned some mistakes with having a public account too, but I would lean to private and always be aware of who's following you for sure.
Number 4, jeans at work. All day, every day, only on casual Fridays or never?
Only on casual Fridays. I will let you in on a secret. There might be a pair of jeans on me right now as I'm standing here in a coat and tie.
Nice. Perfect. Love the honesty.
Yeah.
Coin toss, heads or tails?
Tails. Always tails.
Final one. You score a touchdown. What's the go-to touchdown celebration?
Boy, I don't know. I might just have to be the Barry Sanders and just hand the ball back to the official.
Awesome. Love it.
Not,
All right.
Not really me.
My last question here, normally we ask what's that one piece of advice you want students to leave with, but I think you did really good at answering that question here, that the last one that Nathan asked. So I'm going to ask a different one. What can we look for this week for the Bertsch bits? What stat are we looking for this week? What are we coming out with?
Oh man. That thing has created a life of its own. And talk about how sometimes things come about that you put absolutely zero thought into, right? Just like one day I threw that on the end of a tweet, and next thing I know, there's still guys in the NFL that played at Notre Dame, and I'll see them after the game, and they'll be like, "Hey, did I get a Bertschy Bits today?" And I'm like, no, bud, I didn't get you one today." Boy, I don't know what. I mean, there's some good fourth quarter stuff on Kenny. Hopefully, we get to use again Sunday. Trying to get that stuff ready throughout the week. So hopefully we'll have something there. Maybe I'll throw a Bertschy Bits about our time together here today.
Awesome. Well, I cannot wait to see it. With that, we're going to wrap up this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series today, featuring Michael Bertsch, the communications manager with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as always, Michael, as many of us have said today, thank you so much for giving up time out of your busy schedule. As we learned, it is a very, very busy one to be a part of the program today.
I appreciate it. I'm going to give one pub, and that's for the people on the show here. In March, April, pay attention to the Steelers PR Twitter account. We always host a student summit. We host about 100 college kids in person, and we also host double that via Zoom. It's a program that we host, kind of talk about the PR profession, working with the Steelers. We've hired, since I've been here, we've hired 3 interns from that summit. So please be on the lookout for that. And we would love to have you either join in person or join virtually.
Awesome. Well, that means a lot. It's going to segue into the next thing I was going to talk about. Our internship program here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Application process is open. Go to our website, search summer internships, and find the web page with that. And then you'll be able to go to our external application site to apply for many different internships here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And when you're applying, make sure to throw in there that you watched Before the Snap. Can't say it's going to help you, but can't say it's going to hurt you either. Appreciate all that. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, follow everything that we do in here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Same with Michael, Steelers PR. Stay up to date. See what bits are going to come out this week. Tune into that. As far as Before the Snap, we're going to take a couple weeks off. We got Thanksgiving, some holidays coming up. So go spend time with your family. Enjoy the time. And we're going to be back on December 1st with Seth Levitt, who's the executive director of the Jason Taylor Foundation. Going to learn what the nonprofit world looks like and a foundation for one of our Hall of Famers. So for myself, Nathan, Jerry, all of us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, want to thank you so much for tuning in. Michael, thank you for being a guest, and we hope to see you here next time.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. And thank you guys for spending some time with me today.